Hi, welcome to Bharata First. I'm frankrausanpereira. This is FRP Explains, a show where I simplify the complex and try to give perspective to some of the biggest issues facing us. Well, today I'm going to talk about an incident that took place in Stockholm, Sweden on the 28th of June. Salwan Momika, a 37-year-old Iraqi refugee in Sweden, burnt the Quran. He desecrated it, he tore it several times and then burnt it as well. This, of course, outraged the entire Muslim-dominated world. The Arab countries protested against it and were clearly upset with what had happened. The entire world condemned the act, and the European Union also said that what was happening was not correct. It's difficult, I understand, to try and put an end to these kind of issues because there's pretty little that the governments can do to try and pinpoint individuals like this and put an end to it. But here's where I'd like to expose the European Union's double standards. The European Union clearly poked its nose where it didn't belong. When it can't get its house in order, it decided to interfere in matters that were internal to India's interest. Now, last week, the European Parliament met and a resolution was passed on the violence in Manipur.
The next debate is on India and the situation in Manipur.
One of the lawmakers had this to say.
Although dramatic violence in India, in Manipur, began because of land ownership, it seems that very quickly it also became religiously conditioned violence. Over 250 churches were attacked, numerous cemeteries and parish houses. India is an important partner to the European Union, but if we, as a Christian community, can respect other faiths and identities, we must ask our partners to do the same. I propose an urgent visit by the European Special Envoy for Religious Freedoms to India, and the way Indian government will treat this proposal will show whether the authorities there are, for the time being, only powerless in such cases, or whether they knowingly allow persecution of religious minorities by radical groups. Our message must be clear. We will not turn our heads away from violence, and we will not turn our backs on persecuted Christians.
So that was a European Parliament lawmaker clearly saying that when we, that is the European Union, which has Christian-dominated countries and Christian countries, can accept other faiths, then we should ensure that our partners, which is India, also do the same. Not just that, lawmaker goes on to say that we will back and stand for our Christian brethren across the world, and it is our right and duty to do so. Sweden is a part of the European Union. It joined the European Union on January 1st, 1995. When the European Union cannot ensure this takes place within their own region, how can they preach to others? That is my question. Now, India clearly said that this is an internal matter and it will be dealt with internally, and we are the only ones who should interfere as far as the issue in Manipur is concerned. Let's hear what the Foreign Secretary had to say.
On the Manipur question, Suhasini, this is a matter totally internal to India. We we are aware of what the Brussels in Parliament is happening, and we have made a reach out to the concerned EU parliamentarians, but we have made it very clear to them this is a matter totally and absolutely internal to India.
Now, going back to the issue at hand, why I call out the double standards really as far as the European Union is concerned. Now, a resolution as far as the Quran burning incident was passed by the UN on July 12th. The resolution was put forth by none other than Pakistan, and India supported the resolution, which said that action should be taken against bigotry and those who tarnish religious freedom and those who create problems as far as religious freedoms are concerned should be brought to book and should be taken up to task. Interestingly, there were some who voted against it, and these were the regular offenders, the so-called protectors of the world, the so-called people looking at freedom, the so-called people who say that we would like to practice religious freedom. But when it came to the resolution, those who voted against were France, UK, US, Germany, and a couple of other European countries. So clearly there are double standards there coming to the fore, and their colonial mindset being exposed. Of course, they say something else, but words are merely words and nothing more when it's not backed up by action. Now, let's not forget that France has its own share of problems. We've seen the protests that have taken place over France this past month. France was literally brought to its knees. France was burning. Several issues coming to the fore there. The biggest one being, of course, the immigrants from the colonial strongholds of, or the former colonies of France, namely from Africa and some from the Middle East, who traveled to France. Of course, they've been living there for generations now. They are French citizens. They mostly belong to the minority community there, and they claim, and well, we've seen that as well, that they're living like third-class citizens in their own country. Now, it's a problem that France has to deal with. It's a problem that is internal to France, and it's a challenging issue as far as Emmanuel Macron is concerned. And the French people are clearly upset with this whole dynamic and want to deal with it and try to bring an end to it as soon as possible. But that again is a problem which is France's problem. It is not India's problem. You don't see India going and poking its nose in the internal matters of France there. The same way, Germany has its own share of problems with immigrants that have gone in by the millions from the Middle East and war-torn Arab nations as well. But we don't see India interfering in those matters and saying that this is what you should be doing or this is how you should do it. So why then has the European Union passed such a kind of a resolution where it goes on to say that maybe a fact-finding team should be sent to India, to Manipur, to see whether what is being done in Manipur or what's happening in Manipur is deliberately being done, or is it that we are incompetent to handle the situation? I think we are competent to handle the situation. We need to deal with it ourselves and don't have countries like, don't have blocks like the European Union come and interfere in our matters, just as we don't interfere in their matters. I think that's the basic courtesy that we need to show each other. The European Union calls us a partner. This is not how you treat partners. You treat partners with respect. You treat partners with a sense of mutual understanding as well, which seems to be lacking this time around. And it clearly shows that European Union seems to be sitting on their high horse and want to preach but do not want to practice. That's it on this edition of FRP Explains. Do continue to come back to Bharata First for more such content. There will be much more programming that we'll bring to you from August 1st. Full-scale programming coming your way from August 1st, so don't miss out on that as well. Frankrausanpereira signing off.